Born to a wealthy family.
Was
Yeah, yes, huge. He had money coming out of money. He didn't even
Wow.
need money, is what I'm saying.
Wow.
Had a passion for cooking.
Really?
Decided basically just as a goof to start taking some acting lessons. Became a horror god.
His voice.
The voice alone, dude.
Yeah.
The way this cat turns, like on a dime, we won't get a very good snapshot of it in this movie, but there are other movies that he was in later on in his career.
Mm-hmm.
My personal favorite Vincent Price film is The Haunted Palace. And because he plays almost a dual role in that movie, going from Dexter Ward to the evil counterpart. And the way he turns on that, be like, oh, I'm so weak and tired and kill everybody you know, kind of a thing.
All right.
Dude, it's only he can do that. I don't think, in my humble opinion, I don't feel like anybody else has done that. I don't feel like anybody else. I feel like Johnny Depp has the range to do that. Although, I will tell you this, my friends. If anybody is keeping score, I feel like Keanu Reeves is a better actor than Johnny Depp. Fight me. Come on. Who wants some? Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, I think
over Johnny Depp.
I think Johnny Depp is more eccentric than
he's a nutbag. Yeah, he's a nutbag.
I can't see Keanu Reeves doing a Pirates of the Caribbean.
He could. I feel like he could. I feel like he could do that. Am I wrong? You think I'm wrong? You don't think he can do it? He was great in a lot of Poe pieces that Hammer did. You're exactly right. Odd Mother. I know. I just fucked that up. I just fucked it all up. You're exactly right, Odd Mother. I was always a big fan of the Lovecraft situations that he did. Like I said, The Haunted Palace being, I think, the only Roger Corman adaptation round about that time frame that Vincent Price was a part of.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, okay, so what do you got? You got Mask of the Red Death, The Pit and the Pendulum, which was kind of wacky.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
I mean, pretty much all those Hammer movies that Roger Corman, or they weren't really Hammer movies. They came out of the United States, but pretty much all of those Poe adaptations, The House of Usher, which was him in like a bleached blonde situation.
Mm-hmm.
I concur, Johnny Depp. Well, you're wrong, Summer. I say Keanu Reeves. Who's a better actor, Keanu Reeves or Johnny Depp? I think we all know the answer, and I think it's Keanu Reeves. I'm sorry. Johnny Depp, not a bad actor, but kind of
eccentric.
Eccentric, sure. And he really just kind of benchmarked his entire career on Tim Burton. No Tim Burton, no Johnny Depp. End of story. Keanu Reeves, on the other hand, what do you got? You got River's Edge. You got Johnny Mnemonic, one of my favorite movies. Bill and Ted, of course. Dracula. How about that?
Yeah.
How about Dracula? Nobody wants to talk about Dracula. That's fine. I don't care. We're not here to talk about Keanu Reeves and Johnny Depp, for Christ's sake. We're about to do a goddamn podcast.
They're not in either of these films.
No. But I'll still fight you. If you think Johnny Depp is a better actor than Keanu Reeves, I will fucking fight you. I don't mean to be hostile right now.
I do really like Keanu Reeves and John Wick.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. He goes from action star to like romantic comedy star to show me that kind of range. Speed. Bill and Ted, Dracula, other movies that River's Edge, which he kind of basically played Ted again, but that's fine. They're both great actors. I agree, Ryan. Ryan, you know what I'm talking about.
What was that one?
Depp was great as Hunter in Fear and Loathing. Okay, I'll give you that, Natalie. You're exactly right. Johnny Depp did a great job as Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah.
What?
The one where he was dead had to do with like mail he was in the future or past or something.
What? Who? Mail use?
Remember the name of the movie?
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. He was dead? He's a dead guy. Are you talking about Keanu Reeves or Johnny Depp?
Keanu Reeves.
He was a dead. Are you thinking of Johnny Mnemonic?
Maybe.
Johnny Mnemonic, in my humble opinion, is one of the most underrated neon cassette tapes that you can watch on VHS.
Oh, Blow was a great movie.
Blow was okay, but Nothing compared to Johnny Mnemonic.
Wow, I would say Blow's better than Johnny Mnemonic.
Let me regale you. Johnny Mnemonic.
Mm-hmm.
Dolph Lundgren. Okay. Okay. Well, wait, hey now. Henry Rollins. Okay. I'm not done. I'm not done yet, people. I'm just getting warmed up. I brought out Dolph Lundgren. I brought out Henry Rollins. Udo Kier.
What is this, the replacements?
You just said it. You just brought up the replacements. That's another great movie. He's playing a goddamn has-been football star, doing like scuba diving and scraping barnacles off of things.
Anyway, let's get to a
That's
horror
a great movie. All right, let's talk about a horror movie. I will never stop singing the praises of Keanu Reeves.
I could tell.
If I were a gay man, and I'm not saying I'm not,
And if he was here right now,
I might suck a dick for Keanu Reeves. Not that he would be interested in me doing that, but I feel that Keanu Reeves is. Who's better than Keanu Reeves right now? Tell me that. Other than your misplaced ideology of Johnny Depp, who do you think is better than Keanu Reeves? Hemsworth.
Hemsworth. He's got a good.
He's an action star. I'll give you a Robert Downey Jr. I like a Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, I want to see him away from Avengers though.
You have Dr. Dolittle, Sherlock.
No,
Holmes.
I mean now, like get out of the Avengers.
Okay, Dr. Dolittle.
No.
I wasn't a fan.
Comedy.
I wasn't a fan. One of my favorite roles he played. He was good. I didn't catch that. Keanu Reeves was good in The Day the Earth Stood Still. Ryan,
oh, yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. See, he's got range.
Yeah.
You understand that? That's range. Johnny Depp just plays weirdos, and there's nothing wrong with playing weirdos.
Isn't Keanu going back to Bill and Ted's?
Jason Momoa. Jason. Yeah. Okay, Liz. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you Liz. Jason Momoa, I love him dearly. He's a one-trick pony. Okay, he looks great with his shirt off. If he's in a movie and his shirt doesn't come off, then he's not in that movie, is what I'm saying. Less than zero, Frank. That's what I'm talking about. Movie was eye candy. Agreed. You're exactly right, Natalie. All right, come on.
Okay, anyway.
We're
getting sidetracked.
I know. This is like a whole fist fight that we're going to get into eventually.
we just started.
Let's do a fucking podcast, and then we'll duke it out in the fucking driveway later. All right, here we go.
This isn't an actor podcast.
No, it isn't. But if it was, it would be dominated by Keanu Reeves.
Oh, boy.
Because he is a superior actor.
Okay, so Keanu Reeves versus Tom Cruise. Ooh. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'll go Keanu Reeves.
I'll go Keanu Reeves on that one, too. I'm a fan of Tom Cruise. Religious beliefs notwithstanding, it's all relative as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I'd go Keanu Reeves on that one. Dude, come on. Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Come on.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? All right, here we go.
Oh, Benedict Cumberbatch. That's another good one.
He is good. Who said that? Natalie? That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good. I feel like he just needs a little time to let his career mature, because right now he's Doctor Who and he's Doctor Strange, right?
Mm-hmm. Doctor Strange.
So I think he could be good.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the other Doctor Who? Matt Smith. Remember that dude?
Mm-hmm.
There's a weird movie out there. I forget the name of it, but it was directed by Ryan Gosling, and it's about Detroit, present day. I think it's called Lake Nowhere or something like that.
Huh.
It's bizarre, but Matt Smith, who was Doctor Who, basically plays a meth dealer.
Wow.
And because he's got that weird skeletal face, perfect. He looks exactly like a meth dealer. Love him in Sherlock. All around great. That's exactly what I'm talking about. There, Liz.
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
Hell yeah.
See, okay, all right. If we're going to have that conversation, then that's
Tom Hanks.
We're taking Tom Hanks on a level to where it's like, who's a better person?
Tom Hanks is such a great actor.
I know, and he's a great guy. He's a great.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard anything bad about Tom Hanks in your life? No, you have not. I feel like if we were to see a news report today that said Tom Hanks slapped infant orphan baby,
be like, oh, man, that baby must have deserved it.
We would all look at each other and go, what did that baby do? Girl,
Yeah.
you know, he's such a great guy. Same thing
really
with Keanu Reeves, man. He's out there riding the subway, giving up his seat to pregnant ladies. Dude, do you hear that about Johnny Depp? No.
No. Or Tom Cruise? No.
Okay, well, Tom with the Scientology and the Tom Cruise. But let's not begrudge a man his religion. Let's do a fucking horror show. Shall we? You guys are dragging me off topic. I'm trying to do a goddamn podcast, for Christ's sakes. Stop it. Stop it right now.
Stop it.
All right, mic's on.
Mike's on.
I hope you guys like Vincent Price. I heard he was a great dude, too.
Yeah. Probably not much of an action.
Tom Hardy.
Oh,
That's another great guy. Ex-drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking fought his way out of a heroin addiction. Enough about that. Let's do a podcast here, kiddos. That's right, inmates. We are talking about the one and only The Last Man on Earth from 1964. This one stars Vincent Price, Franca Betoya, and Emma Danieli. Directed by Sidney Sacklau, written by Richard Matheson. That's right, the Richard Matheson. Now, this movie, I feel like, is important today for a number of reasons. Not just today as in this time frame, but today as in right now. We're going to get to that in 2 seconds after I fucking drop that off. So, a lot of things going on in this movie, okay? We have a lot of prevalent issues, especially in today's social economic situation, especially with things like it within the last week that have gone absolutely batshit crazy.
Right.
I'm going to get to that in 2 seconds. I've seen them. I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, great. Good to hear. Been searching for Vincent Price cookbook. That's another thing about Vincent Price.
Yeah, the cookbook.
The cookbook. He loved to cook, that guy.
Yeah,
Again, this is a guy that was born into money. Vincent Price was. Let's just do a little deep dive on Vincent Price for a second here. Now, Vincent Price, born into a very wealthy family. Okay, 1911, I believe he was born. Really could have spent his life just fucking off, because that's the kind of fucking off money that he had coming into this world. As a goof, he decided to take some acting classes and in turn became a horror god. He's like on the I think if we had to make like a horror Mount Rushmore,
he'd be on it.
He'd be on it. He'd be on it.
Yeah.
Other people, there'd be 3 other dudes up there with him.
Elvira.
It's possible. Yeah, it's a possibility. I don't know that I'd put her on my horror Rushmore, but either way. So think about his real
Alfred Hitchcock.
Well, maybe if there was like a suspense Mount Rushmore, but that's neither here nor there.
Stephen King.
Thing is, though, H.P. Lovecraft, I feel. But the thing is that his real passion wasn't even acting. He basically just picked it up because he didn't have anything better to do. And in his real passion was cooking. He wrote a number of cookbooks that are.
He did a horror cookbook.
There are Vincent Price horror cookbooks.
Oh, okay.
1 or 2. There's not many. Most of them are just regular old cookbooks. But his recipes, he would experiment with different foods and all kinds. His travels, he would pick up different herbs and spices, tell you how to do it. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Anyway, enough about that. So our movie picks up actually in 1968. So the movie was made in 64. Our storyline picks up in 68, 4 years later. Okay, that's going to bear a pertinent situation as we go along. So we're going to pick up now a couple. I know I'm all over the place, and I'm sorry, but a couple of things. Number one, the screenplay was written. I'm hammered by Richard Matheson, who wrote the same screenplay, or I should say, the same screenplay was adapted for The Omega Man with Charlton Heston and I Am Legend with Will Smith. Now, if you want the most true adaptation to the original book, this is about as good as it's going to get. Okay. The Charlton Heston version is fine. I mean, it's along the same guidelines, but it's got a lot of bare-chested, like, it's a Charlton Heston movie before anything else. If you want to check out the Will Smith version, it's fine if you're okay with CGI.
Yeah.
Because you get yourself a double scoop of CGI.
Oh boy.
And the problem with the Will Smith version is that it's a Will Smith movie. Hear me out.
Oh, come on.
Hear me out. I'm not hating on Will Smith, but the problem with Will Smith movies is that Will Smith has to be the good guy. Now, if you read the original book or screenplay, the main character turns out you think he's a good guy, but at the end you're like, oh fuck, you're a maniac. And the ending was altered for specifically for Will Smith in the making of I Am Legend, and that
two different endings.
That kind of pissed a lot of people off, myself included. So regardless, let's jump right into this movie. We're going to pick up in 1968, about 4 years after the somewhat half-ass apocalypse. Now, not that far away from what we're going through today. We have a viral pandemic, and we have the majority of the world population pretty much wiped out. By wiped out, I don't mean like dead. I mean like walking around banging on your fucking car dead.
Undead.
And kind of like in a lackluster kind of telling you to go fuck yourself kind of a dead situation. Not necessarily zombies, but we'll get to that in 2 seconds. So we're gonna jump right into Vincent Price's daily routine. He's the sole survivor of this pandemic. He gets up. He's got a pretty boring life, all things considered. I mean, he's the last man on Earth, and it's not like you're going to the singles club when you're the last man on Earth, right, buddy?
Yeah.
No.
Still be single.
You're going to be single. Yeah, I mean, you could go to the singles club, but you're going to. I can tell you right now, you're going to strike out.
Party for one.
Yep.
Party for one.
Table for one.
No, there's
nobody here. Holy shit, it's quiet tonight, huh, Fred? Shit. Guess I'll just go home and beat off. So his daily routine basically comprises of waking up, smelling some garlic to make sure it's pungent. Now, we're going to get into this in a second, but he's also got to sharpen a bunch of steaks. He's got like a wood lathe set up in his house, and it's just basically day-to-day survival. From there, he's got to go and do like some basic rounds, and his everyday routine comprises of basically going door to door in his city, kicking the doors in and staking vampires. So what we're going to find out throughout
collecting mirrors
and garlic and it's just day-to-day survival. Not that far away from what we saw in I Am Legend, just without the dog and without all of the...
No, the dog showed up later.
Later. We're going to get to the dog in a minute. But and without all the fun Will Smith monologues.
Yeah.
Because Vincent Price was not a comedic actor. And he wasn't there to entertain you so much as he was there to scare you, inspire suspense, as the original screenplay called for. So as we're going to learn this day-to-day routine, we're also going to find out that the pandemic, the virus, whatever it was, actually caused everybody to turn into goddamn vampires, buddy.
Vampires.
Man. Now, I'm not talking about superhuman vampires. I'm not talking about like, run up the walls and, pile over each other to get at your fucking ass vampires. I'm talking about like weird
zombie vampires.
1964 vampires as you would sort of half-ass expect them in the sense of the word.
Yeah.
Like in a weird zombie kind of a way. But that's all we're going to deal with at this point in the movie, okay?
Hence the garlic and mirrors.
Garlic, steaks. Mirrors. You find out vampires can't stand the sight of their own reflection, thus he hangs up a bunch of mirrors. Apparently in 1964, there were
nighttime versus daytime.
That too. There were actual stores dedicated just to mirrors. There was a place you could go and you say, I want a mirror. And he's like, I got nothing but mirrors here, so take your pick. He was a comedic actor in the Eggman and Batman TV show. He actually, you're right, Clay. He actually did do a couple of comedic roles. I don't know. It's just kind of weird to me seeing him in a comedic setting. There was a Comedy of Terrors. There was a couple. Regardless, that's his day-to-day routine. And then once he gets his supplies ready, then he just goes door to door and he starts staking fucking vampires. I get that. Now, a couple of things. I feel like this movie is very important today for 2 pertinent reasons. Number 1, the vampire angle. Number 2, the pandemic angle. We'll get into both of those as we move along. So that's his first day. We spend the whole day with him. He comes home and passes out. Once he gets home, he turns on a stereo. It's that old school record stereo with like the big cabinet speakers. You know what I'm talking about? Cranks that up all the way, and then once the sun sets, here comes all the asshole vampires. They're like zombies, pretty much, but they can talk. And one of them is like his best friend, a guy by the name of Ben.
Yeah.
So
hey, Ben.
Ben is like the leader of the vampires. He comes out, and apparently Ben can talk also.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this particular group of vampires here. I would say closer to zombies.
Yes.
They do a lot of staggering around and moping, and but they can talk.
Yeah.
So that shows some level of intelligence. But they talk.
They do try to bite you.
They do, and they try to break into your house. They vandalize your property. So fuck these assholes right off the get-go. Break the mirrors, pieces of shit. I just put those up. And here they come, and they're like, Morgan, come out. Morgan, come on out. We're going to kill you. Morgan. Bah. And he keeps him in his shed, and they play video games. Okay, you're getting that's a different movie. That's a different movie, Natalie. That's Shaun of the Dead you're thinking of right there.
That's a great movie.
It is, but there's no video games in this one. Good Ben leading vampires and shit. Yeah, well, I mean, that's pretty much Morgan. Come on out there, Morgan. They're gonna kill you. No, I'm not coming out there, and apparently you can't come
you're gonna kill me here. Come on in.
Well, I mean. At this point, Ben can talk, so why doesn't Morgan just be like, hey, you're a fucking asshole.
Right?
Get off my fucking property, you dick. You're trying to kill me.
You can talk, you can listen.
That's exactly right. And you can kick rocks while you're at it, piece of shit.
Yeah.
But they just kind of like pick up random sticks, 2x4s, and bang them against the house.
Attempt to bang them.
Pretty much, yeah. Morgan doesn't particularly give a shit. I mean, all the banging and the loud music keep him up at night, but other than that, he's like, these guys are fucking full of shit. I'm just going to sit on the couch and then I'll pass out eventually.
Yeah.
Passes out, wakes up the next day. He gets himself into a bit of a funk. Now, by a funk, I mean he can't get into his daily routine because he's kind of depressed and he's like, oh, these fucking vampires. What am I supposed to do? He's looking at his map about all the doors he kicked in. He's looking at, maybe making some more stakes to stake the vampires. He's like, oh, fuck this. So he gets in his car and he drives to the cemetery where he interred his wife. And from here, we're going to get a very touching and emotional flashback about what exactly happened and how we got to this point.
Mm-hmm.
So, not unlike today's events, it started with a pandemic. The pandemic basically started as a joke. It was I believe it said it was a European flu, and there was a threat of it coming to the United States. But our guy, Robert Morgan, Vincent Price, kind of laughed it off when his assistant Ben brought it to his attention. Mm-hmm. Ben was like, oh, it's nothing. And he's like, yeah, it'll, fucking take care of itself. Who gives a shit? That was at his daughter's birthday party. Fast forward about a month, his daughter now has the flu. One of the symptoms of the flu is going blind. And his daughter is blind as a bat laying in her bed. Man. And there's a conversation between Morgan and his wife about whether or not they should send her to school. Clearly, she has whatever the shit is, and she may be highly contagious. Mm-hmm. So to me, the answer is obvious. You're not going to fucking send her to school.
Don't think so.
But as that conversation is taking place, there's like military trucks driving up and down the street collecting dead bodies to be thrown in a body pit on the outskirts of town and roasted.
It reminded me of like a dump.
It was a dump. It was pretty much a pit. It was a pit. Yeah. And that's a motherfucker. And that fucking sucks, man, because here's Morgan. Morgan, by the way, is a biochemist. And so is Ben. And they're like trying to figure out the fucking how to fix this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Right about the month point where Morgan's daughter gets infected is when Ben decides he's not going to work anymore because he don't want to catch the shit, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But Morgan is still trying to figure out the cure for this or some kind of a vaccine or something, and now nobody else wants to go to work except for Morgan and his boss. So they're like, well, we're it, man. We're the last stand of humanity. We got to figure this shit out or else the world's going to end.
Yeah.
Morgan's like, hey, man, I'm with you. We're gonna get to the bottom of this. Animals are immune. So there's some kind of something to look at there. I mean, that's a shining ray of hope. It's some weird situation.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, they can't figure it out. Morgan goes home. He pulls into his driveway just as his daughter's dead body is being piled into the back of one of those army trucks. Whoa, fuck me, man. That's a fucking kick to the nuts.
Yeah.
Morgan runs inside. He's like, hey, where's my daughter? Her bed's empty all of a sudden. Runs downstairs. Hey, talking to his wife. What'd you do with our daughter, Katie?
Oh, boy.
And the wife is like, so you know how she was like alive and breathing and moving around and stuff when you left for work? And he's like, yeah, I remember that. And she's like, yeah, she's not doing that anymore. So I called the army guys and they came and got her.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Well, fuck me, man. And then, by the way, since we're having this conversation, I can't see you anymore because I'm blind too, says his wife. Boy. So now Vincent Price is like,
you know what that means.
You motherfucking fuck. Mm-hmm. So we get a very long, drawn-out process. It's very emotional and very touching, and I'm not going to do it justice as I should, but to make a long story short, Morgan's wife dies pretty much that night. He decides that he's not going to call the military police to have her taken to the weird burn pit at the edge of town. He's going to do the right thing, or I guess the wrong thing, really, if you think about it. He's going to drive her out to a field, a scenic overlook, and he's going to bury her there, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, so thoughtful.
And I mean, it was touching, man. Mm-hmm. I got a little.
I'm not going to take you to the pit like the rest of them.
I wouldn't either, man. That's fucked. And I wouldn't let any of my kids go to the pit either. Right. Bury him in the backyard or something. Regardless, he takes her, he buries her out in the field. It's great. Comes home. This I thought was one of the best parts of the whole movie. He gets home and he's like, "Oh, I just buried my wife. Oh, fuck me!" And then pretty soon,
yeah.
He's like, "What the fuck is that?"
Mm-hmm.
He goes and opens the door. It's his dead fucking wife.
Mm-hmm.
She's not quite zombie, not quite vampire, but she is a nasty customer.
And very dirty.
And she's dirty as shit. She comes running right at him. And that's the end of our flashback. We can do the math from what happens there. He has to kill her again via stake to the heart, or I don't know.
Oh, he didn't take her to the bedroom?
Did he take her to the bedroom?
Well, you know.
I mean, no.
No.
She's looking to bite him in the neck and turn him into a vampire.
Oh,
it's gnarly, dude. You don't want any part of that. You don't want any of that shit. And she's got fucking dirt under her fingernails because she clearly had to claw herself out of the grave, right? She wasn't that hot to begin with.
No.
She's wearing one of those grandma house coats when he buried her. That's not attractive. It's not attractive.
Probably was back then.
Watch. What the fuck?
What?
Watch. Like anyone would answer that. Does that make them taste better? Pet Cemetery shut right there. She'll become free-range vampire. Pet Cemetery. What? Watch. Like anyone would answer that. What, Liz? Okay. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Liz. Is there a question in there? Because I didn't get it. Hit me with it again, Liz. I'll answer your question. Ciao. So that's fucked up, man. Now we're going to cut back to present day. Our man Morgan is like, dude, this is not a life that he is living. It's fucking miserable, you know? And on top of that, while this flashback was happening, he passed out there in the weird mausoleum over his wife's newly interred corpse. So he's like, oh, fuck, I just woke up. Oh, shit, it's the middle of the night.
Yeah.
The fucking place is going to be crawling with these assholes.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got to fight this was a bad move, I felt, on his part, but he's got to fight his way through all these asshole zombie guys, back to his car, drive his car back to his place, and get back in there where he's safe with the garlic and the mirrors and all that. Does just that. My move would be just to go ahead and camp out.
Yeah.
There in the mausoleum.
You got no idea where you're
there. They didn't know he was in there. Yeah. And it's a pretty secure location. So just marinate. We'll go back there in the morning. He doesn't do that. He goes charging back to his house. They all follow him.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, because he's in such a hurry, he doesn't have time to put his car in the garage. So he has to leave his car out there. He doesn't have time to set all the garlic and the mirrors and all that shit. Here comes asshole Ben with his vampire zombie self. Morgan,
Had a 2x4.
Morgan, we're gonna kill you. Morgan, come on up, Morgan. Blah. And this time they start beating the shit out of his car, which is a motherfucker. They actually got into the car, popped the hood,
Yeah,
which is remarkable for a
Yeah.
zombie, I'd say,
pretty
and
stunning.
then started fucking around with the engine block and
I
stuff.
was like, oh, they're mechanics.
Hey, yeah, if you guys know how to do that, can you check the oil for me? It's been a couple
Right.
months. Just give it a once over. I mean,
here's
since
the,
you're
here's the compressor. Check
Yeah.
my air tires.
here's the keys. If you guys want to take it for, it's been making a weird noise. I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
Can you wash it while you're at
Yeah, details. What
it?
are you guys doing out there? They're out there smashing the windows and fucking around, really creating a problem for him. He's looking out the window going, you fucking assholes. Wakes up the next morning, his car is trashed. Now he's got to go find a new car.
Mhm.
So he goes to a car dealership, picks out a nice station wagon. He's like, I got myself a new ride. Brings it
Hey.
back. He's sitting in his living room during the day, lamenting about how lonely he is, and he hears a dog barking. Pokes his head out the window. It's a fucking dog.
Oh, man.
He's like, oh, hey, come here. Get over here. Hey, get over here there. So he starts chasing the dog around. The dog, takes off. He's following it around. Goes over a little hill. And once he goes over the hill, once Morgan goes over the hill, he finds a bunch of dead vampire dudes, all with stakes in their chest that he doesn't recall staking. He, pulls out his map and he's like, I've never been here. Somebody else is out there staking fucking vampires, which means
He's not alone.
there might be somebody else out here alive,
Yeah.
which is a great sign if you're Bob Morgan, because you are the loneliest prick in the known universe at this point. He's like, oh, dig this. I don't know what's going on, but maybe I'm not the only guy killing vampires. It's badass. So runs back. Now the sun's going down. So he's like, I got to run back to my house, get the whole place locked down with the garlic and mirrors and all that shit. Does just that. Next morning, he gets woken up by the dog. He's like, oh, here comes the dog. Dog comes in. He's like, oh, dude, I love you. I love you so much. You're my best friend. We're going to have great times. Dog's a little on the, he's not sick, but he's not acting right. So, again, Morgan being the biochemist that he is, he's like, dude, I'm going to check you out. Let me just take a sneak peek at what's going on.
Put on my rubber gloves. Let's check it
So,
out.
yeah, I'm going to go knuckle deep on you there, big boy. This is normally how I say hello to a new friend, but we got to give you a once over. So he does some blood work on the dog. Sure as shit, the dog has got the fucking blood infection.
Oh, boy.
Which I guess makes the dog a vampire dog. But I'm just speculating here. The dog was fine, right? He's got it in his blood, but the dog wasn't biting anybody or chasing anybody or being outwardly aggressive at all.
Right.
So I don't know why we had to kill the dog at this point.
Maybe just to be safe.
I mean, Morgan. I guess Morgan's motivation at this point.
What if you're sleeping and all of a sudden the dog just?
Well, that's fucked. Then fuck that dog.
That's probably why he did it.
Well, yeah. I get that. Yeah, I guess better safe than sorry. And if you think about Morgan's motivation at this point in the movie, he's really trying to eradicate the entire virus and anybody infected with it. So I guess that does make sense in a weird cock-a-banana situation.
This sucks.
And it sucks for Morgan because he finally had a friend.
Yeah.
And he did the blood work, and then we get this nice little sequence of Vincent Price doing that cry laugh, where he's looking at the dog's blood under the microscope, and he's like, oh, that's not a good sign.
No, it's not.
If you ever find yourself cry laughing, either do a shot or seek professional help. You should probably seek professional help because it's not good. Whatever your chemical biology is at that point, let's taper it off a little bit. But that's what happens. Cut to the next scene. We have presumably the dog in a burlap sack and a steak coming out of it.
Oh, man.
As if to say, I just killed the fucking dog. Yeah! How do you like that shit? And now he's got to bury the fucking dog.
Yeah.
At least he buried it and he didn't burn it. Take it to that weird body pit.
Right.
I felt like Morgan and the dog had a little bit of a connection there for a second or two. Vincent Price trying to figure out how to turn the dog into Edward Scissorhands. I don't know that he was going that route, Frank. We're about 40 years early for that, but you never know. You never know what he had on his mind.
Edward Scissorhog.
Edward Scissorhog. That's a fucked up dog, man.
That sounds like a good movie.
You thought your carpet was in bad shape now? Wait till Edward Scissorhog gets in the house. He's going to piss on it, and then he's going to cut the swatch out, and he doesn't even know what he's doing. It's
Hopefully
fucked
there's
up.
no trampolines nearby.
Fuck no. Fuck those things right up. Forget about chew toys. They're going to be in shreds.
Right.
The whole shit. Your couch?
Inflatable pools? Out the door.
Nope. You better get some. You better live in a house full of concrete, dude, because that's the only thing that's going to work. Regardless, he's burying the dog, and it's another emotional scene. But as he just so happens to look out onto the horizon, he sees a young lady staggering towards him, and she's like, "Huh," and he's like, "That's a fucking person over there out in the daylight."
Yeah.
During the vampire apocalypse. You're a human being, dude. Get over here. I'm going to hug you. She just sees him. She's like, oh, hell no, dude. Takes off running. So he starts chasing her. Hey, get over here. I'm not going to hurt you. Can't you understand? I'm just a dude.
And he's towering over.
I'm a little horny, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's been a rough apocalypse.
I'd probably run away from him.
I would too.
Yeah.
Here's this horny old guy chasing me for no reason. He's like, get over here. I'm not going to hurt you. So we get a little chase scene here. Eventually, he tackles her, and he's like, dude, I got you. You're good. You're good with me. I got food. I got water. I got whatever you need. She's very reluctant to go with him, but eventually he kind of schmoozes her a little bit and gets her into the car.
Mm-hmm.
Gets her in the car, takes her back to his place where, she kind of gets to relax a little bit.
He pays her.
He does. Yeah, you got to make with the fucking payoff. But if you want to get a girl in your car, that's how you got to
That's right.
Hey,
I got a $20 bill.
let me show you this wad I got over here. Have you ever seen a crisp $50 bill, baby?
Oh,
Woo!
you must be all right.
It's right here in my back seat. You're a chauvinist and a misogynist. How dare you?
What?
So he gets her in the car. He takes her home. Now, a couple of things worth noting here, and if you're really watching this movie, you'll notice this too. Number one, she's very weak and kind of frazzled.
Yeah.
But as soon as the sun sets, she kind of regains herself for a second. She's like, whoa. So he's like, okay, dude, I'm immune to the shit. Apparently you are too, because you're still alive and you're still a human being, and that's great. So I just so happened to be a microbiologist. I was working on a cure for this vampire bullshit. Maybe with your blood and my blood, we can figure some shit out. She's like, oh God, what? Ooh, I'm still a little woozy. So he takes her blood, he takes his blood, he runs it under the microscope, and he kind of does the math. I don't know what the fuck he does. There's all kinds of talk about microbules and other fun stuff with the microscope. Comes back and he's like, dude, I figured it out, man. I figured it out. You put my blood with your blood, we have an antibody that can defeat the vampire virus. It's badass.
Boom.
So, and she's like, whoa, dude, whoa. And this is where we get the big reveal. And this is one of the second very important parts of this movie, especially in today's climate. She's like, hey, man, here's the deal. We're still people. Those things that you've been killing, they're like the bottom feeders, but we've been killing them too because they're pieces of shit. Everybody else that you've been killing is still just people. We've all evolved into a nocturnal species, and we're all now terrified of you, Robert Morgan, because you're this maniacal fucking serial killer.
What?
And he's like, what the shit? I'm trying to rid the fucking earth of vampires. And she's like, we're not vampires, you asshole. We're just human beings. We just evolved into this new thing, and now we're trying to restart society, and you're killing everybody.
Vampire activists.
You fucking prick. And he's like, oh, by the way, Mr. Morgan, I've got a death squad on their way here right now to kill your fucking ass because you're a maniacal serial killer. He's like, what? No, but with my blood and your blood, we kind of cured the vampire thing. And she's like, I know. You got to get the fuck out of here right now. I'm going to tell them when they get here that we have a cure for the whole shit. So once they get here, I'll sort the whole thing out. And he's like, okay, here's a cure. I'm going to bounce. Unfortunately, Ben and his crew of zombie vampires break into the house. just as they're having this conversation because, they were too busy having this conversation. So he gets in and actually kills Ruth, who was the young lady that he saved.
Mhm.
So bites her in the neck, doesn't necessarily kill her, but does like put a serious wounding on her to where she can't communicate with the death squads. So from here we get a very weird medium speed chase, I would say, between Vincent Price and the death squads, where they're like kind of taking a laissez-faire approach. It's like a speed walk kind of a thing up some stairs. And Vincent Price got himself like some weird smoke bomb snap pop situations, and he's just kind of throwing them about. And they're putting the smoke out, and the guys are having a hard time shooting at them. But they do manage to shoot all the zombie vampires that are, camped out outside his house. And eventually they do corner and capture and kill Morgan. And unfortunately, just as Ruth is running into, hey, he's got the cure, man. He's got the way to save us all. But they already killed him, and he's bleeding out pretty much. And then at that point, they're like, oh, well. And then Ruth walks out of the church, which is where they cornered him at, and that's pretty much the end of your movie.
Yeah.
What did you think of The Last Man on Earth, sir?
Oh, that's a great movie.
It is. It's a great movie. I love it. Pertinent today.
Especially with what's going on.
Absolutely. Hey, Calipo. Hello. Ryan's in the house. Hello, bunnies. No, I have not. I don't know what you're talking about. It's a movie from the point of view of the zombies. The zombies all think everyone else is in the... You're talking about something completely different, Liz. And to be honest, I missed that whole part of the conversation. So, sorry about that. Last Man on Earth.
Yeah.
Pertinent today.
I liked it.
I liked it too. Pertinent today for a number of reasons. Number one, of course, the pandemic angle as we're facing COVID-19. More important, I feel like, for the racial implications. Allow me to explain. Morgan is doing his job.
Yes.
And good, bad, or indifferent, it is still his job. What he kind of fails to realize is that the quote-unquote things that he's dealing with are actually people. He sees them as things. He sees them as less than himself for some reason. And to be fair to Morgan,
he's protecting himself.
He is. And the things that he deals with are zombies in that weird vampirical sense of the word, i.e. they're banging on his door every night. They don't show any signs of real intelligence. They just kind of fuck everything up as they go. If Morgan would just take a step back and realize, there's more to this situation than what he's seeing, then he would realize that they're just people.
Yeah.
Kind of the same way we are approaching not only protesters, but our police officers right now in the current situation. And I don't mean to go all deep dive or political on you, but I feel like this movie kind of hits on both sides of the coin, because if you're one of the guys protesting, by all means, all cops are pieces of shit and fuck them anyway. But you're only looking at one case. And if you're on the other side of the coin, all protesters are pieces of shit and they're breaking windows and stealing shit and setting shit on fire. But you're only looking at one side of that particular situation. And that, I feel like, speaks to today's social economic crisis the same way it would to anything else. Really, if Morgan would have just looked a little bit deeper into his situation, he would have saw that the quote-unquote vampires, the vampires that he was dealing with specifically were indeed a problem, because they were banging on his fucking door every night, breaking shit, fucking everything up.
Wanting to bite him.
Yeah, wanting to bite him. Hey, Margaret, come on, Margaret. Fuck those guys. But that's not, by and large, all vampires. That's a very small portion of the vampire population as it pertains to this movie. And I know I'm making some broad generalizations, but I'm just kind of chipping away at the iceberg here. Bear with me, folks. So if you're in Morgan's shoes and you're dealing with that, and you think that that's all that there is, then I'm not saying, I kind of sympathize with Morgan to that degree, but the problem is that Morgan never bothered to look any deeper into the situation. He never got past the viral aspect of it. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, he also thought he was the last person.
He did. And I mean, on the microbial level, he was. He was the last human being. And there's a weird backstory here about how he got bit by a bat in Panama, and he was sick for a couple of days, but he got over it. So it somehow gave him immunity. It was we never really got into that as much as we should have. But what I'm saying here is that this speaks to the short-sightedness of the human nature. What we believe, what we today, us, me, you guys, we see what we see on the news and we think, hey, fuck those guys. Those guys are assholes, whether you're talking about the police or the protesters. But if we can just break through that barrier, if we can just look a little bit beyond that, look into the shoes of a police officer or a protester, not a looter, but a protester, we can kind of, there's humanity in both sides. You know what I'm saying? And there's something there that we can on both sides that we can identify with. People doing their jobs, people that have a message that they want to get out. But because we're so short-sighted and we only see what we see on the news and we don't bother to look any farther past that, we're kind of stuck in Morgan's perspective of vampire, not vampire, I'm right, you're wrong, fuck you. And that's where we are today. And that's why I think this is an important movie to watch. Watch this movie, though, inmates in padded room or Psycho Bunnies. Don't watch Will Smith. And no, I'm going to say go ahead and skip the Omega Man also, because it's not as it's very Charlton Heston. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's a lot of bare-chested, gun raising and things like that, which isn't really pertinent to the story. The crux of the story is perspective. The crux of this story, as it pertains to economic events today and social events today, is that if we as a people can just see past vampires, and I'm sorry to bring vampires into this obviously very important equation, if we can see past humans and vampires, if we can see past protesters and police officers, if we can take this on the level of basic humanity, people trying to do their job, people trying to get a message across. There is all of us in both of those things. Basic thing. That's just human life, right? On either side of the spectrum. Vampires notwithstanding, this is an important movie just to make you think about the way you think. And I know I'm hammered. I know I'm drunk. And that's fine. This may be the most articulate I ever get in my entire life. But watch this movie, 1964, The Last Man on Earth, and then think about today's events. Think about the week's events. Think about where we are as a society and where we're going as a society. Think about whether or not you're a vampire, no pun intended, or whether you're on the side of the police, and just think about the opposite side of whichever line you stand on. Okay? That's all I'm saying.
And you can watch this movie for free on Tubi TV.
Or archive.org. It's public domain right now. You can watch, or YouTube. I believe it's also on YouTube as well. Something to think about, guys. That being said, I think that's about all we have to say on this side of the microphone. I think I've done the best I could possibly do. Thank you guys very much for joining us. This is archive.org month here in the padded room. Join us. Oh, fuck, I didn't even look. Do you have the list?
Nope.
Join us next week for another public domain movie that I will be announcing later in the show. In the meantime, we're going to take us a little break and come back to you with some other stuff.
Thanks for watching.
See you next week. All right, you crazy bastards. Sorry to get all, up on my soapbox there, but it happens. Have a great night. Thank you very much, Liz. Great point, guys. Thank you, Natalie. Cool show. Thank you very much, Frank.
Thank you.
It used to be on Netflix, but I'm not sure what it's on now. If you're looking for The Last Man on Earth, Liz, it's on YouTube, archive.org. It's actually a public domain movie. Tubi TV. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the realm of public domain, but basically what happens is a movie has certain licenses that it has to renew every single year. And if it fails to do so, then it kind of becomes public property. That's how we get all these riff track movies, people removing the audio and putting their own audio in for different movies. Yeah. It's because they're basically public property. So you can watch these movies for free anytime you want. YouTube, archive.org is a great site. really, anyway, there's thousands of Roku channels dedicated to public domain movies. Oh, I'm going to burp right there. Other than that, I think we'll see you guys next week with another public domain part of the Library of Congress. You're exactly right, Frank. You can also find it there if you want to do that kind of a deep dive. You guys, a very wonderful speech. Well, thank you very much, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
And I would encourage anybody who's having serious thoughts about today's situation to check out The Last Man on Earth. You know what I'm saying? Archive.org. Odd Mother, you're exactly right. Check out The Last Man on Earth. I feel like, if nothing else, it will give you pause and it will give you the time to think about your own perspective on things. That being said, I'm going to get off my fucking soapbox because I have to go to the bathroom. Thank you guys again for joining us. We'll see you next week with hopefully a less heavily handed public domain movie. In the meantime, good night.
Good night, guys. All right.